Game day on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, in for Sammy McKee, Daniele Franceschi, Derek Brandeo, and Jake the Snake Schultz with you for the next 2 hours of our program. It comes with a heavy heart, though, to start the show as the hockey world mourns the passing of a Sportsnet colleague, broadcaster, friend, husband, dad, grandparent Greg Millen, gone far too early at the age of 67. Greg was someone that I was fortunate enough to start at the very beginning here at Sportsnet.
Yeah, was he a day oneer like yourself?
Day oneer.
Yeah.
Scott Moore was in charge of putting together a hockey department, and I was one of 5 faces in that department. Jim Houston, of course, was the lead play-by-play guy, veteran of broadcasting, and, of course, the second veteran was Greg Millen at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Had been retired for quite a few years and came over from the Hockey Night in Canada side, where he spent a ton of time with John Shannon and Joel Darling, and really was the veteran on our desk. Of course, Jim Houston and Craig Simpson started off as well. Craig had a little bit of broadcasting experience. He'd done maybe a year or two in the States, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, with Fox. But it was Greg Millen for myself and another unknown rookie from out west in Darren Drager. And you couldn't have found 2 greener guys in the hockey world. But we had Greg Millen to lean on, and we did those first few years.
Yeah, it's interesting for him being in that role in such a big spot, and everything I hear about him these days is just how much people liked working with him. Quick to laugh, family guy. Sounds like he loved the game a lot, and I didn't have the luxury, the treat to know him personally, but man, you guys have all raved about him.
Well, I'm not sure you guys were even born when we started, so.
Yeah.
Well,
Disco, especially you.
Yeah,
my
I
friend.
mean,
I certainly was.
Maybe for me, I don't know, but I will say, in my own personal experience, Greg Millen, Joe Bowen, soundtrack of my childhood.
Yeah.
Growing up and watching and listening to those guys call Leaf games, that was, it's part of why, frankly, I'm sitting here too with you guys, is the love and passion for that, and seeing individuals like Greg and Joe and others do it. But, he's firmly entrenched in my memory, and in my formative years, listening to him call games on Hockey Night in Canada and covering the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's pretty special. And I also remember specifically, like the in-between the benches. That was a bit of a novel concept a little bit. Ray Ferraro does a terrific job with that, but he was always really good in that role as well. And Greg Millen he'll always have a special place in my heart, because it was at a point in my life where I was becoming a sports fan, growing into being a hockey fan, and he was a part of that.
That's awesome.
We didn't hit it off that great too at the start.
You and Millen?
Yeah, it was me, because I was young and raw, and he had been well established at Hockey Night in Canada, and there was a bar, there was a level, and
he wanted you to be good. And you weren't.
and no, you're not wrong at all. You're not far off, but I wasn't getting good in like any time fast, and he knew that.
Minutes, eh?
He knew that.
Yeah,
but back in those days, like, there was Hockey Night in Canada, and then there was no one else.
Yeah.
So I think at times he was frustrated with a startup company like us, and especially working with a guy like me after he's been with the very best.
Yeah.
So there were times when he was a little hard on me.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it at the time, because I'm an idiot, young and foolish, and still thinking you're kind of cool. And
would you say you were more confident then or now?
Stupidly confident back then.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand. And he taught me, he really did, that to do well in this business, you've got to start over again. You just cannot come in off the ice and think that people are going to respect you because you just played in the NHL or that you were part of a Stanley Cup or you could story tell. Like, you have to reinvent yourself, and that comes with a work ethic, and that comes with taking your craft seriously.
Yeah.
And at times I was an idiot again because I try to crack a joke here and there, and sometimes it just didn't work, like a lead balloon.
It's funny now
And-
that's such a part of it.
And
right?
he knew it. He knew it right from the start, what would work for me, what wouldn't work for me. And, and years later, I could see it every year passing. I could see,
and
now
did your relationship
now-
with him change?
Now it only grew stronger.
Yeah.
The more I appreciated maybe a kick in the butt every once in a while from him, which you don't understand. It's like a parent, a child, right? They don't get it when you're young and an idiot, but you get it when you get older. And I spoke to Greg maybe about a month ago, and I mean, sometimes we shared stories of starting out together, and sometimes we just laugh at the fact that we've been in this business for 25, 30 years, and we're still getting paid. And it's like Millsy would be the first guy going, Kyper, I'm still fooling them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's
all it is.
That's the way Millsy was. But he was in a happy place, and it's really
I'm sorry, Kyper.
we send condolences to the Millen family, his wife, his children. Gone too soon. All right, as Millsy would say, the game must go on, and it is tonight. The Toronto Maple Leafs facing the Florida Panthers for the second time in a week.
Yes.
And do we know for sure what kind of lineup we're going to see, JB?
We have a pretty clear idea. This is a team that has been missing significant pieces with Tkachuk, Barkov, Bennett, Reinhart, Greer, Sturm, Kulikov, Forsling, and Ekblad. Wow, that's a great hockey team that they've been missing. Tonight, though, they are going to get back their captain, Barkov, their best D-man and Forsling, Sam Reinhart, will make his return. So that's big news for them.
What, do they miss a game?
Reinhart might have missed a game.
What does a
Reinhart
game
was
do?
one game.
Yeah, what does one game do, right?
I don't know.
I would rest that
cold?
guy too, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like I don't know why I waded into Twitter. I'm like fully done with Twitter. You can't say anything. You literally can't be like, blue is blue, and people be like, not always. Oh my God.
Oh, you lowered Suzuki to top 40?
Yeah.
What did you do?
No, I just, I pushed back on the stupid idea that the Panthers are losing to get the Leafs. The pushback being, you don't know that the Leafs are going to win the division. You don't know a place to finish to get them. Tampa Bay, if you think they're better, is probably going to win the division. Like, they're 2 points back with a softer schedule. Anyway, and then, you got a bunch of people saying they're trying to lose. And tonight, Reinhart, Forsling, Barkov, they're trying to get guys back. They're trying to find their own game. They're worried about themselves because, frankly, they believe they can beat anyone. So they rest guys till they're ready, and these guys are apparently ready, Kip. So I trust him on that. If he needed more games, they'd give him more games.
As far as the other guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, we heard from Paul Maurice today.
We did.
Disco?
We did, indeed. Yes.
And he talked about Sam Bennett.
He did talk a little bit about Sam Bennett. Just briefly, the rationale, by the way, Sam Bennett, they're shutting him down between now and the end of the regular season. And the expectation is game one playoffs, he'll be ready to go. Paul Maurice, a little bit of insight into what went into that decision.
It hasn't. It was over the course of the road trips, and we can manage it. But he can't play the game at his best. So he could play, but it doesn't make any. We got to get him to as close to 100%. We think we might be able to do that, but we got to do that off ice.
He could play.
It's really their only chance to be taken seriously in repeating is to get, I believe, Sam Bennett back, and
Can't do it without him.
And even Ekblad. And I'm not a huge Aaron Ekblad fan, but that guy can munch minutes, and he can play specialty teams, and he was a key part to a Stanley Cup last season. Those two guys for me, and I mean, we know Tkachuk's out there too, is almost like a cherry on top, but those three guys, like, it's imperative that they're healthy.
People get it twisted sometimes when guys get too much money or they're drafted higher. And Ekblad's a great example of a guy who people are like, he's not a number one pick. So they treat him like he's whatever. He's a valuable player. Every team in the league would benefit from having him. They miss him quite a bit right now, considering some of the guys they have in. So, yeah, that's a big loss.
All right, let's kick in a Kipper's Clipper on Craig Berube discussing going up once again against the Florida Panthers.
Well, you got to have patience playing this team because they check extremely well. They're in your face, extremely well, and there's not a lot of room. So we're going to have to be patient. Simple puck plays are important tonight. Putting pucks in behind them, getting pucks out of your zone. Those little things are crucial. And we did a real good job of it for all the game, I thought. And we got a couple good opportunities in third period and capitalized on them. So, there's a lot of good things we did well playing them, but those are key for me.
Yeah, those are key things. Florida's an interesting spot. I think it's been 7 games I think you had in the lineup since they've scored 3 goals. Mm-hmm. They've haven't won in 5, right? They're 0-4-1 in their last 5 games. But no one seems worried about them. The panic is not there from anyone. There are ways to get at them. Is the Reinhart clip worth playing?
Honestly, the one that's interesting to me here in terms of on that subject, on that theme, it's actually Brad Marchand.
Okay.
Brad Marchand, we can play clip 1 because I think that gives us a good indication, an idea of why nobody's really worried about this team.
I think the biggest thing is just make sure we're playing the right way going to the playoffs. We've lost some games lately, but if you look at the way we're losing, we're playing strong hockey. I mean, we're given a couple opportunities a game and running some hot goalies, but that's got to happen. If we continue to play the way we are and forecheck the way we are and close the way this team has all year, I mean, we're going to be a tough team to play, and we know we're putting a good game together. A lot of guys are out of the lineup, and guys that are coming in are playing well, so just have to keep building.
Yeah, what I've been able to gather the last week and a bit out of Florida is that they're not playing poorly. Mm-hmm. The record doesn't indicate the way that they've played, and Brad's right. They've run into some hot goaltending.
The Leafs had this exact stretch. What did they lose in a row? Was it 4 or 5?
I think it was 4.
Yeah,
4.
A month ago.
We went through this.
They ran into some good goalies, and they played pretty decent. They just didn't get the wins, and it happens over certain stretches. But also, that's kind of why you get Marchand, isn't it? You have a guy who's like, he's been there, he's won a lot. Things are going poorly, and he's not like, oh, God, we really need this one tonight.
Yeah, and I still think that there's a level that he needs to get to still. Mm-hmm. And at times it hasn't come quickly for him in Boston this season and even in Florida. So I don't know. Is it just the start of a small kind of scale downwards, or is this are we going to still see a very good prime kind of Marchand? Do you think he's got a lot of hockey left in him?
Does this mean you're worried about the contract the Leafs are going to give him?
I would question any team in terms of being careful with term and money. Yeah. He's a great penalty killer still. We know that, and he maybe will go down as one of the best modern day penalty killers in history. I think he's just a phenomenal guy that can do a lot of good things on the specialty teams. But as far as maybe losing a step or two, I think, I don't know, is it just having an off year, or is this just at his age it just
I think he's slowing down. I think he's slowing down a bit. And then it's combined with you're not on as good a team, right? Like if he was this version of himself and still playing with Bergeron and Pasternak, you're in the offensive zone a lot more. It's easier to look better, but I think he's had to do more this year on top of being a step slower. So a couple Leafs thoughts for tonight. Their lineup staying the same. Absolutely no changes. So Jake McCabe not back in. Still no David Kampf. Robertson going to stay on the fourth line. Joseph Woll getting the start tonight. No Anthony Stolars. Thoughts?
I gave you mine yesterday.
You
right?
like it? You like it?
It was. I had no doubt in my mind that I think if you wanted to leave a lasting thought on the Florida trip, and you're coming off a Florida win already, the one you probably want to focus on is Tampa Bay with what you perceive as your number one goalie, and right now that's Stolarz.
Yeah, you liked Tampa last night, eh?
Oh, yeah. They're scary power play.
Yeah.
I think 3 against the Rangers last night, if I'm not mistaken.
Best team in the East, Tampa Bay Lightning.
I think right now they seem to be the
Kucherov, Point, Gensel, Hagel, Cirelli, Gonsalves, Bjorkstrand,
Yeah.
Gord, Paul,
Nasty.
and then Hedman, McDonough,
Yeah.
Chernak, Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
There's a lot to like.
Yeah. Just not to dwell on our opening conversation here, but it's hard to pick your poison right now.
Yeah.
Even if you thought
Mhm.
that Florida is very confident against the Leafs, it's like all 3 of these teams, and now we throw Ottawa in, so they all have elements of being very dangerous.
Yeah.
All of them.
They do. The one thing I will say that everyone doing the Ottawa freakout thing, they don't score like these other teams. Like they're bottom. What are they in the league in scoring? I can figure that out fairly quick. But they're like 20th, 21st, 22nd in goals for. They just don't have the guys who
Complete
scored.
finishers.
They don't have complete finishers. And then the Leafs D, since adding Carlo, has really been good at taking away high danger chances. I
Yeah.
just think Ottawa would have a tough time scoring. They're still very good. That's not saying they couldn't beat the Leafs, but I think it's just such a different ask than it is to say play Florida. Or Tampa.
They're about middle of the pack, Borny. Yeah, they're
that
right.
right?
They're literally right in the middle,
Okay.
pretty much.
And that's in goals
middle.
for per game.
Yeah, goals for. They're exactly like right in the thick of things in the murky middle of the NHL.
In the
In general.
expected goals for category, they are significantly below the murky middle. Looking
okay.
at the Sport Logic chart, so
Okay.
yeah, never mind. They're pretty close to dead middle. Anyway,
I want to get your thoughts on, are we now in that area of personal agendas? Because I'm starting to hear topics of conversation on Willie for 50 and Mitch Marner for 100 here. So I don't think it's anywhere near what we had to go through last season with Austin Matthews and 70. But is there a chance that's creeping in right now?
I mean, Willie's not even close, right? He's got
He needs a
6
goal a game.
games.
Yeah.
Six
Six
goals
games,
in
six
6
goals.
games.
he averages a goal every 2 games. He has 6 games left. He's on pace for 46, 7, 8. I don't think that's that interesting. And Mitch has been well below a point per game for how many years now? 7? I don't know. He has 6 games left.
He needs a point per game.
Yeah, he needs a point
He's
per
6.
game.
He's 6 points away from 100.
He could end up with 3 tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't tell me one of these games he's not. They're playing Buffalo, Detroit. At some point he's going to have a 3-point game, and then you chip in a couple assists.
So
I don't think it's that. Now, if he has a couple games where it doesn't go well, we can sit here and go, you got to get it. He has to get it this year, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Not like he needs to do it. They need to make sure it happens for him. Like just put him out there at the empty net, get him on.
Oh, you think so?
Just make it happen.
I feel
You know?
like there's more incentive. There's definitely more incentive for Mitch to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And because I mean, Sammy sits here and jokes about it too. He's a 100-point guy, but not really.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody, all the I don't want to call them
Sam's the only one that goes not really.
Kyper, I've heard plenty of people do it. I've heard plenty of non-Mitch believers, right? The folks that want to rain on the parade when it comes to Mitch Marner frequently joke about, 100. He talks about we could say he's a 100-point guy, but no, he's not. 99, not 100.
Ugh.
I think it's silly.
I'm a rounded out guy. Rounded up.
I'm
Yeah.
with you. Think about you're talking about a guy who misses a game here and
70-goal
there.
guy. He's a 100-point guy.
Yeah,
Last year he was a 70-point guy or a 70-goal
70-goal
guy.
guy.
Like it's. I wouldn't grind on that at all. I think it's there. I do. I hear it too.
We hear it.
All right, let's get the head coach's thoughts on Marner. Clip 3.
It's like a guy scoring 50 goals, and it means a lot to the player, individual, and and to our team and to the organization. He's just got to make sure he stays in the moment with things and plays the right way, and the points will come. He's a very good player. He has the ability to do a lot of good things, so he's just got to stay focused and just keep playing his game and focus on playing the team game.
I don't think he has anything to worry. If there's one guy that does not cheat, it's him. Often the third guy high, often the first guy back. I mean, this guy's got a conscience defensively that he's just not built to go for it and hang the rest of his game out to dry.
No, while you're gone, he had a really good game against Florida. Well, he had a good third period, like in big moments. And I did some bits on like how it could look for Mitch in the playoffs for him to be successful, and how just because of the way he plays, he doesn't play that power overwhelming game. We've come in and said before in certain games where you've said that game's just not built for Mitch. Certain game here or there, that sort of style of game is not built for him. But there's a way within those games we're seeing, and we saw it in the Four Nations, we saw it against Florida in this one game, where it's like he can make those game-breaking plays and seams by just staying on the front foot a bit more, being in the action a bit more. He can make those plays. It feels like he's finding something within himself here that can keep happening for him, and I think that's an encouraging sign for
just get him the
all
puck
parties.
too. Sometimes if he seems lost, it's because he's not getting the puck.
Well, for me, he's got to skate. Like in the playoffs, I don't feel like he's up in the play the same way. But he's got a
Space.
Yeah.
Space, right? Like there's less space, and that's where he's struggled a little bit historically.
I think when they get the puck on the power play to him, it changes completely. If he's off the side and he's not that involved, or they've had him in the bumper on occasion, and it's like, that's not his game. He needs to handle the puck. He needs to see 3 or 4 different options, and he can make that pass without telegraphing anything.
He can, for sure. He's the best at it. The one thing that I think has been good lately is with all the movement with Willie and Austin and Mitch at the top, you don't really know who it's going to be or where a guy is going to be, and I think that's been really effective for them. All 3 of them taking it to him, and their power play has been so good now since January. They've really found something. Can they be like Tampa Bay in the postseason with those guys? I think it's there for them more this year than in past years. So here's to hoping. Anyway.
All right, let's. I want to get Craig Brewy's thoughts on one of my favorite players in the league, Barkov.
He's one of the best 200-foot players in the National Hockey League, so it makes it. He's difficult. It's hard. He's a hard opponent to go against. Who's ever out there against him, and he makes their power play better. He makes their penalty kill better, and he makes their 5-on-5 game better.
It's very seldom he's in the wrong place. This guy.
Yeah, he is. He's a horse. He's a horse.
Yeah.
Was it Huberto had 115 points on his line or something like that? It's pretty good. We know without him, he's like a 70-point guy.
Yeah, he is. I think he really. Yes, Tkachuk for sure, and even Bobrovsky last season. But this guy is the Florida Panthers. He is the face. He is the. He is the man.
He is for sure. Before we get to Jeff Chychrun,
Yes.
do you want to? We have Marchand talking about Brandon Carlo and Paul Maurice talking about Anthony Stolars, who I know he's not playing tonight, but
Yeah,
seen him
love
before.
his thoughts.
Okay,
Let's hear his thoughts on Stolars.
Awesome. Clip 3, Maurice, please. Sorry, that's Paul Maurice, clip 3, and if not, that's okay.
I thought
Yes.
that coming out of January, his entire game changed. And I'll be clear about this. I don't know anything about goaltending, like nothing. So I can only tell you what it looked like from the bench and from kind of the middle of the ice in practice. I just thought he got to a structure in his game. We played against the New York Islanders at home on back-to-back, I think. It was on back-to-back in January, and he stopped 41. We should have got beat by 10 that night. And that, to me, was kind of when he took off. So that was... And then Robbie Tallis, who I think is just brilliant with these guys when we have players like Alex Lyon kind of come in and, carry our team for a while. And Stoley was really important for us in that push last year. He said that right from training camp when the year started. This guy's a player. This guy's a goalie. He's just had some injuries, and he's been on some teams that it's tough to kind of get that confidence, to get to that role, to get feeling good. But Robbie Tallis never wavered from his belief in Stoley. I know that Sergei loved him as a partner because he told me that directly. And we loved him here in the room. And he's one of those guys that when he got the opportunity, he got a payday a little bit. Like, he had earned it. Everybody was happy. We loved to kept him, but it's in that Ryan Lombard mix. Love the guy. He's great for us. Good for you and your family. I hope it works out great for you.
That's how you wax
That's
poetic.
great, isn't it?
There's some coaches out there that wouldn't give it 10 seconds.
No. Here's
I'd be like,
93
yeah,
seconds.
good kid, happy for him.
Yeah.
Move
And there was
on.
another
next,
answer too, Borny. I didn't even. He answered another question after about him.
next question.
Yeah. No, he was all in. So it does seem like this is just okay. Stolarz is our guy. We're gonna play him against Tampa.
I don't even think there's enough time for him to
Change it.
change it or stink or plant a seed of doubt. I don't.
That's a scary phrase. You may have just jinxed it.
No, don't worry. Do you think there's any? Do you place,
Don't be that guy,
All
right?
Do you guys?
Shout out, shout out.
Yeah.
You guys place any stock in the? I don't know. It's like the implicit confidence that comes with the guy that's there and the communication element. Because every time you, especially the last couple of weeks, for whatever reason, the common theme with any of the guys on the Leafs talking about Stolarz specifically, you can hear him at any end of the rink, wherever you are, you can hear him. He's vocal, he's emotional, and he connects with them in a different way where he's not the goalie. It's like he's kind of one of the guys. He's part of the team. He's not that weirdo goalie type. You know what I mean? I wonder if some of that is just even provides extra confidence and faith for the skill players up front, for the defensemen on the blue line, that they're like, oh, we really trust this guy. His eyes and ears matter to us back there.
I think it depends. So, yes, typically I think that's a great thing that he's that confident and comfortable and he's a part of it. That's awesome. But then you have some really weird goalies. And I like that too. I like the guy who's comfortable with who he is and he doesn't need to be one of the guys because he's into the universe. I mean, Joseph Woll's like a big Lego and piano guy. But that's cool too. So as long as you're confident in whatever your real personality is.
I played with super quiet guys, Don Beaupre in Washington.
He was pretty damn good.
Yeah, he had a great career.
Yeah.
Glenn Healy and Mike Richter were chatty guys, but they're not loud guys. It's not like you could hear them 100 feet away from you. But
Heels wasn't?
No, he wasn't like a yeller. He was when he had something to say, he would say it. But most goalies see the game differently, right? So, but they're not scared to share information on a whistle or something for you, but not loud, not like where it kind of ripples through you. And whatever the case is with Stolarz, like, it's working, and that's the most important thing. That there hasn't been any cracks. There hasn't been any. Even on their 3 or 4 game losing streaks throughout the year, it's never really seemed like they've been off the page. They seem to always be on the same page. So he's found his place. He's found his comfort zone for the first time in his career as a go-to guy, and it's taken him 12 years.
Yeah, think how much money's at stake for him from now over the next, 8, 9, 10 months. Like, if he holds down this number one job and they win a couple playoff rounds, he's the number one guy and it goes well, and then he starts next season decent, it's like, all right, we better extend this guy, where he's
Still a long way, and I think his health history
definitely
will
weighs.
not allow him to sign a 6-year deal at $40 million.
Right.
I cannot see it. But to your point, if he can string together a great run here and come back next season at Christmas, and it looks like his health issues are somewhat behind him, and he can convince the medical staff that nothing's blowing up in the near future, maybe you can talk them into a lengthier contract.
I mean, it's 8 months from now till Christmas. It's like, that's a big chunk of his career that his next deal could be worth 2 times 2, or it could be worth, 4 times 7. I don't know. Anyway.
All right, we'll take a quick break here. And when we return, we'll bring in a former roommate of mine.
Is that right?
Really?
Jeff Chychrun, covering the Florida Panthers. Or should I call him Jacob's father?
Right.
More on tonight's game, Toronto versus Florida, when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. The Toronto Maple Leafs play a front end of a back-to-back in the state of Florida, starting with the Panthers tonight, which welcomes in Jeff Chychrun, former NHL defenseman, current analyst, covering the Florida Panthers, my former roommate. Plenty to get into tonight, but my first question to you, Jeff, is what are you doing working, man? Your kid just signed for $72 million bananas. Why aren't you on a private plane right now peeling some of them?
It's crazy how they talk about, what do they call them, PJs? And private jets. It's a whole different world.
I didn't know that. I wouldn't know that.
What we used to say, if I had your money, I'd burn mine.
Hey,
no. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on that. And what's the dad fee on that? What's the percentage? Agents get what, 3 to 5%? What's in it for dads?
Apparently, it's not going up. But, I guess hopefully less gray hair from the stress of being sort of in this environment, kind of waiting to see if it'll ever happen. But honestly, Nancy, we're just so thrilled for him. It's been a really fun 9 years. Going through some ups and downs depending on how the hockey clubs were doing, and just trying to enjoy the process. But we're just really happy. He's obviously put a lot of work in and recently got married. So from my wife and I perspective, I mean, we're just happy parents at this point, hoping he can just enjoy the next while. And the great part now is it's all about winning in Washington, hopefully.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when he signed the contract, all the think pieces come out and everything, and I all of a sudden was exposed to how much of a fitness, I don't want to say freak, a fitness committed athlete your son is. Does that come from you, or were you a hardworking, committed type player?
Well, I just always tried to be under 12% body fat when Pat Croce was getting us at camp there, right, Nick? And try to run that 2 miles in 12 minutes or whatever it was. No, it definitely not for me. I think I always put the work in to try to be in shape for camp, but he certainly takes it a little bit further than I did, that's for sure. And, he's had to overcome a few things, so probably a good thing for him.
What about Kip? Was Kip more like Jakob or more like you?
I always thought Nick was in great shape, really.
Yeah. I won awards.
Hey, Nick.
I got the bench press. I was right behind Timmy Kerr.
He still is. Look at him.
Yeah, that was easy.
Oh, and they pay us off, when we came in shape.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, there's
they
cash.
bribed you to be in shape.
They pay cash for coming in at the top.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's focus a little bit. Chick, let's focus a little bit on the Atlantic Division and what's going on, particularly with the Florida Panthers. There's some up here that may suggest that they're tanking on purpose to maybe meet the Leafs in a lower seed, but the sense is that they are legitimately banged up. But what kind of lineup do you expect tonight, and how serious are some of the injuries?
Yeah, well, I think Barkov's back. I haven't been to camp that much. I was there last week. I didn't see Tkachuk skating. Kulikov, I guess, is close. Ekblad obviously won't be playing until early in the first round. Sturm, I'm not sure there, but I guess Sam Bennett's going to be out now for the next week to 10 days. They're going to hold him back. So some serious pieces. I did the game in Ottawa the other day, and they put 40 shots on, 22 against. Sort of looking at that game. I think it was halfway through the second period. Ottawa hadn't had a shot. Similar to the third period, really sort of put on a dominant performance. A couple of mishaps in the first caused the goals, and that sort of set them back to zip. You're not scoring 5-on-5. I think that's the biggest concern right now. You listen to Paul Maurice talk, though. He says he likes the process. He likes sort of the game, the important things to him. They're playing these tight games, a lot of one-goal games, and they're playing well. Maybe they're gripping the stick tight. I just think there's a lot of guys out of lineup, Nicky, and a lot of forced manipulation of lines, and it's just taking a little while to come back. And they played a hell of a lot of hockey in the past 3 years.
Yeah, it's understandable, right? It does catch up to you. How is Brad Marchand fitting in so far as a Florida Panther?
Yeah, I think he's fitting in well. Obviously, it's interesting listening to it was Maurice a couple of weeks ago, sort of talking about their talks about acquiring Marchand. And the first thing him and Zito sort of talked about, they needed a penalty killer, and they sort of looked at him and Bergeron as really elite penalty killers. And then you get all the great, obviously, characteristics and guy in the room, hungry veteran, the offense that he brings. But I think it's been a little bit of a struggle because really the club's struggling. I think Verhaeghe scored in 13 games or something. So there's a lot going on in that locker room right now. And but I think structurally, he plays really well. They had some good looks on the power play with him out there in Ottawa the other day. And I think it's just sort of trying to fine tune it and obviously hoping it comes together in the next 6 games before they start the real dance.
And is there a stronger optimism with Matthew Tkachuk coming back? I do hear that he is feeling better. To what extent, I'm not sure what that means, but I think there's some people that really believe that he could be ready by game 1.
Yeah, I think that the skate picked up somewhat today from what I heard. So that could be promising. Obviously, we don't really know what's going on, but or what the injury is. But we're just sort of waiting to see how that comes through too, Nikki. So I guess we'll get news at the same time in the next week to 10 days.
How about the goaltending? How's that shaping up this year? Obviously,
Right.
he's such a he can run hot and cold, but he's been very good for a long time now.
Yeah, he's been, really, I think we spoke maybe last January, and I think that's sort of when it really kind of kicked into high gear. I think they went into Toronto and things went a little bit off the rails there too. But from that point on, he's really been solid. Obviously his work ethic's second to none in practice, just so methodical. But I think he plays pretty relaxed. Little guy kind of makes himself bigger. I think you can sort of see anytime he's out, the communication between him and the defenseman, they're just picking up Vanacek. He seems to be a pretty solid goaltender. I think they probably did miss that tandem with Anthony Stolarz. I thought he was so good last year when they needed him to be. But I think Bob's been his usual consistent self all year. He can't put the puck in the net, and I think that's really sort of the problem. A lot of one close games have been lost recently.
We'll get a good feel out of the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight against Florida, but from 60,000 feet, is Tampa the team that might be bringing it together at the right time the most out of this division?
Yeah, they look good, don't they? When Kucherov gets hot too, that's kind of a frightening proposition. Point looks good. Hedman looks like he's healthy and moving well. I think McDonough was a good pickup. And obviously when Vasilevsky looks like he's the old Vasilevsky, right? Stopping everything and then some. So yeah, I mean, obviously with that Stanley Cup final coming through Florida, is it 5 years in a row? Vasilevsky was a huge part of it. I think that you can't count them out. They look healthy, they look fresh, and obviously bring you guys back like Yanni Gord, and those are sort of key pickups probably for the feeling in that locker room.
Jeff, after spending some years watching Ottawa, and then you just saw them a couple nights ago, are you surprised to see how they've got themselves into the playoff fight?
Yeah, not really. I actually didn't think they were that good against the Florida Panthers. I think Florida really dominated the possession side of that game, but Joe Vanosky and we were talking about sort of the high-end talent. Jake Sanderson on the first power play goal. It was a pretty exceptional play by him, obviously moving his feet. Thought Timmy Stützle was very evident, his skill sets. But no, I think that's been coming for a few years. I think we've all sort of been wondering when it might take that next step. I was talking to Dave Poulin the other day, and he said, with Travis coming in, they've really just focused on the defensive side of the puck. Hasn't even got into teaching the offensive side. I think they're really happy with sort of David Perron's play the past little bit, and that's certainly going to help. But no, I'm not surprised. I think the goaltending's been really solid, and probably due to the large fact that the defense has been quite good this year.
Well, we got to round out the Atlantic with maybe the Montreal Canadiens, who have already announced that Demidov is coming over from the KHL out of his contract with his respective club in Russia here. Are we poised for somewhat of an upset here in the East?
In the first round?
Yeah, in the first round. Like, is it between Ottawa and Montreal? Do you think knocking off one of the big boys
I suppose it's possible. You have to remember I'm a parent now, Nicky, so I really would want one of those teams to get knocked off too. Really hoping for a long run. But no, I mean, it looks like Montreal's starting to put a little distance between the pack. It looked for a while that nobody really wanted to get that second wild card. So I suppose it's possible. I don't know. I still think winning is learned behavior, and it takes a little while to sort of, you may get in the dance, you may not quite be ready to totally compete. So I think that's still to be determined, Nicky, but it's possible.
Looking at Florida's spot in all this, do you think it matters to them who they draw, or is it just that they're so confident, used to kind of handling whoever, it doesn't really matter?
Right, sort of that we don't change our game sort of mentality. I think that's the mantra that they try to throw out there. But I think matchups. I think matchups are keys, and some teams just match up differently than others. I think there's probably one or two teams they'd prefer not to play too early. But there's certainly. I mean, they won 7 of their 8 playoff series going into this year, so they certainly seem to adapt well. I think with them, the key is really going to be health come that first round, in my opinion.
Two common themes tonight with the Toronto Maple Leafs and Florida is their respective free agents going so far without a contract, with Mitch Marner in Toronto, Sam Bennett in Florida. Your kid could have gone that way, but Washington stepped up and made sure he didn't go anywhere. There's probably different dynamics involved in the negotiations for Marner and Bennett, but how do you see the Florida one shaking out between Bennett and the Panthers? Because this is a guy that in many ways might be irreplaceable.
Yeah, to me, he is really the guy that drags this team into the fight, right? He's that nail-biting centerman that really is able to play with a skill level, but also a controlled aggression on the ice. And I think he is intimidating to play against. So it is interesting. I think there's a history in Florida. If you look at Reinhart, you look at Verhaeghe, you look at Ekman-Larsson, Montour, all those guys played it right out last year. So there is a bit of a history with that. I'm sure they would love to have it locked in. And I think there's still a little bit of debate. I mean, obviously the salary cap and the projections the next 3 years, it's all sort of gone public, obviously, but I think there's still some maybe some fine tuning in the mind of the general manager to see exactly where they are and what their pay schedule is going to be moving forward. So I think, I mean, I'm sure everybody would love to have all the guys locked up. I don't know what the deal is in Toronto with Mitch, but it's sort of new frontier, I suppose. I almost think that the salary cap's been artificially held back for the past several years, and now it's sort of accelerating. So we'll see where it all pans out, but sort of new territory for everybody involved, in my opinion.
Great seeing you.
Thank you, Justin. Great to see you guys too.
Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Former National Hockey League.
Appreciate it.
Jeff Chychrun.
Every time we call him, it's like 80 degrees behind him with palm trees, and it snows here.
Yeah, I know.
Today's actually the most disgusted I've been at the weather in Ontario since I've lived here.
How long have you lived here?
13 years.
Are you serious today? April, it always snows in April.
Yeah.
And then it's gone.
It snows one little flurry and then it's gone, except it snowed today. It's supposed to be minus 13 for 3 straight days.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
No, I didn't look either. Is that real?
Well, the feels like it's minus 13 till like Thursday.
I don't like
You are not to book anyone south of Georgia. Okay?
Fair enough.
Unless
I will
you
try
can
my
get someone
best,
in Georgia. If you get Rory on, we'll take him.
Yes.
Big week.
Big week.
Big week.
This is my favorite week of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited.
And they scheduled us to work Toronto and Carolina on Sunday.
But don't forget, there's a big TV in the middle and then a rainbow of TVs around it that we can have them on different holes. Amen corner.
I'm telling our producer, Matt Martin, to get me a clip of maybe an approach shot. So if
we should do a pack at one of the intermissions.
If you're watching us and golf highlight comes up, don't be surprised.
Yeah, you're Scotty Scheffler on 15.
And just sit there quiet while he addresses the ball. Hush tones.
Sammy, no more golf.
Great drop.
Yeah, kind of quiet, between Bennett and Florida and Marner and Toronto. I think everybody knows it's
different
just
animals. These are not the same players.
It's nice that it's parked. Okay, different in what way?
Well,
The
I mean,
situations are exactly the same.
yeah, but Mitch is a guy that I think people would consider a top, whatever, 10, 15, whatever you put him at in the
Yeah.
league.
Well,
Bennett's
yeah,
not that.
we may be talking about a difference on an AAV of maybe $4 million. If one gets 9, the other one could get 13 or 14.
Right.
But I think both are viewed in the same way. How do we replace that player
Okay.
if
Yeah.
he leaves?
I just have so much less confidence that Bennett can be this Bennett later in Bennett's career. And, you know, we did this with Ovi yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't believe that Ovi could hold up.
There's a physical element to this that suggests that you are correct at some point, because it's easier to last longer playing like Mitch Marner than
Dude,
it is Sam Bennett.
Patrick Kane scored 20 goals this year. How long's he been in the
he's-
league? 20 years?
Yeah.
He scored 20 this year.
Didn't he like have that? What was it? The hip surgery?
Yeah, they remade his
Remade the
hips
hip.
and he scored 20 goals this year. You know, like that. I don't think that works when you're so much of who you are is intimidation, force, fear.
Yeah. He's going to alter it. He'll pick his spots better as
Yeah.
you get older.
And then he can score and play and be effective, and he's smart, and he's always going to be a good player.
But there will be someone that knows that they're overpaying or giving him 1 or 2 more years than then they'd like to, but they'd still rather have him for the next 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yep. And
And
that's
that's just
paying Vladdy for
welcome-
years 12,
Yeah.
13, and
Welcome
14
to
or whatever,
free
right?
agency, right?
Yeah. That's
Right.
part of the deal.
You okay with 14 for Vladdy? But that
Years.
could sour and a lot quicker.
My favorite thing I read about it, Jeff Blair and Barker, has an article on sportsnet.ca where he basically says, don't worry about that right now. Be happy that this guy chose to be here, be a part of the Blue Jays, a superstar, pick
Yeah,
the
it's not our
Jays.
problem. At the end of the day, it's not
Well,
our problem.
And it won't be this management's team's problem either. You know,
100%.
Right?
100%.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's like, it's a good thing that when good players are in a place, other good players want to be there. People aren't trying to get to Edmonton because they love Edmonton. You know, McDavid's there, so that's why
So
Perry
Florida-
wants to go there and Kane wants to go
Florida
there.
and the Florida fans think the same way about Bennett as you're telling Toronto fans to feel about Vladdy, right? Don't worry about it. 5 or 6 or 7 years. Don't worry about it.
No, I don't know if it's the same. Bennett,
Why?
Bennett's,
What's
'cause
different?
Bennett's not that superstar class. He's not that same caliber guy.
The only thing I would say I think is different, you know, even with Marner and Vladdy in this, Florida's won. They've done it. So going to the brink of free agency, or even the guy walks out the door, tests the market, I don't know if you're a fan of that team, how it's gonna feel so much worse. Right? Like it's not, you won. You've accomplished it. You've seen what it looks like. You have faith in your coach, in your staff, in your front office. And if you do go to the extent of saying, we probably overpaid a little bit, or we gave him too much term, that's okay. We'll live with it. We won. In these instances with Marner, and we'll see what happens this year, but with Marner and Vladdy, they haven't won. Right? The Blue Jays haven't won a playoff game.
And Sam
That's why.
has,
Right?
And Sam Bennett has, and he's
Yes.
Yeah.
And like I know what you're saying from a skill point of view, from a optic point of view. This guy skates amazing. He scores 100 points, but hey, Sam's been more valuable to Florida than Mitch has been to Toronto.
He's a winner.
He's a winner, and the other one hasn't won yet.
And you get to carry that tag, and he has earned the right to cash in a chip. He's a valuable player. If you gave him 9.5, I'd be like, I got it. You got to
Yeah.
pay him, you know? But,
Oh, everybody's getting rich except the 3 of us.
buddy, don't check the stock market. Don't
You made that
look.
mistake today, eh, Bernie, again?
Oh, man.
All right.
I mean, I don't have much money to lose, but hey, she gone.
All right. Mr. Valiquette coming
He's
up
got
next.
money to lose.
He's up next on his Tuesday edition of our program. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Real Kyper and Bourne show as we go national. We are live on Sportsnet, as well as Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne. Disco Daniele in for the next hour.
Yes, sir.
I just want to open up our national program by dedicating the show to the memory of Greg Millen, who we lost all too soon yesterday at the age of 67. I spoke earlier in our program on our Leaf Edition hour of the time that I spent with Greg Millen.
Yeah, people should listen to that.
The experience that I had being a raw rookie in the broadcast world, and Greg in many ways taking myself on, and Darren Drager as raw rookies on the desk.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really special time. And Greg, of course, had the experience of Hockey Night in Canada, where the bar was set in terms of what people expected over the years, bringing us the greatest hockey games in the history of the game. Greg had already been a part of that, and learned a lot out of him over the years.
You showed up as a scrub, and Millen had to turn you into this polished professional you are today.
Yeah, and at times I didn't like it.
As with any of us, tough love is essential, but never fun.
And my experiences with goalies like that didn't stop there. John Garrett, of course, did a tremendous job when we started out as well. And you think about the goalie analysts.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm kind of, I don't know if you guys know this, I'm a little older than you guys.
Is that right?
So, but I remember John Davidson, of course, a great New York Ranger goaltender.
Yeah.
And then John Shannon made a star out of him on Hockey Night in Canada, and everyone else followed, including Greg Millen, John Garrett. And then look at today.
Goalies.
We're going to have one, Steve Valiquette, in a few minutes, who knocks it out of the park every Tuesday around this time. But, of course, Kelly Rudy's still going strong. TSN's got Noodles and Marty Braun.
Yeah. Buddy, Rick DiPietro has a radio show in the U.S.
Yeah. I mean, Hank, we talk about Rangers.
Lundqvist is on the desk. Yeah.
Lundqvist.
Right?
Yeah. It's
Patty Waz coaching. Goalies are everywhere.
They got
Boucher.
a different view. That's all I can ever explain it is why there's so many goalies as analysts. They've got a different view.
And we've had great ones over the years too. I mean, we've had Carter Hutton on this year. Mike McKenna was a regular for us for a while. We've had a good turnout of goalies. They see the game brilliantly, and everything I have heard from everyone who worked here with Millen was nothing but great guy who loved to have a laugh and loved his family, and was a respected colleague of many here. So he will be missed.
He will be. In a few minutes, we'll welcome in Steve Valiquette, former NHL goaltender, MSG Network analyst, and CEO of ClearSight Analytics. What do you think he has in store for us today?
Well, we're going to learn about what is the, damn it, I forget the word now, Kip, the eye thing he sent us today. The quiet eye.
The quiet eye, the relaxed eye.
The quiet eye. And this is, was part of the birth of ClearSight Analytics, I believe. But we were discussing the, one thing that golfers do about like focusing on a target and the back of the ball for 2 to 3 seconds to let everything sort of set. Goalies use this, athletes use this. He's got a whole book on it. He's got thoughts on it. We're going to learn a little bit about the quiet eye today.
That sounds like a modern piece of technology that some goalie wears, and it's like...
Well, they did. They affixed it to the helmet of a goalie,
wow. Okay.
and I think that allowed them to see, hence the clear sight, what the goalie was seeing with traffic.
Oh, that's so cool.
We're going to ask him because he knows and I don't.
Of course. But that's really cool.
I'm freestyling up here, and the guy's literally waiting in the green room.
All right, Valley, what the hell does quiet eye mean? Do I have to do the interview like this, covering my right eye?
Listen, I was telling you guys about this 2 years ago, and it probably hasn't helped your putting because you haven't applied it.
We didn't listen.
All right.
My wife could tell you, she tells me a lot of things, Valley. It doesn't all stick.
Explain.
All right, so this goes back 10 plus years. Joan Vickers from the University of Calgary, she developed an eye device that would really calculate the gaze of athletes and proved that the highest level performing athletes had the longest gaze. It was a mobile eye tracker. And what she did was she worked with basketball players, and she was able to figure out that the ones that had the longest gaze at the back of the rim were the most successful on free throws. Golfers that had the longest gaze at the back of the ball, specifically like the curvature of the ball, were the strongest off the tee with their irons and putting. Goalies in the NHL that had the longest gaze through the release before a shot was taken were the most successful at stopping the ones that they saw. And that's where I started challenging it and looking at scoring chances in the NHL, ones where goalies had more than half of a second of clear view versus the ones where they didn't. The ones that they did not have that opportunity were passed shots, screen shots, deflected shots, and broken plays. And then after doing 200 games myself, I taught somebody how to score these games, and they went on to do 200 games. And then we were able to have enough data to go, at that time, it was actually to the Toronto Maple Leafs and interview with their group. And it was a very intimidating first meeting. DJ Smith, Jim Hiller, Mike Babcock, Lou Lamoriello, Jacques Lemaire, Jacques Caron, goalie coach from the Devils.
Oh, that was my first year there. I probably saw you.
But it's so intimidating.
Yeah.
So intimidating. But it was really the birth child of it is quiet eye. And when you boil hockey down to its simplest form, if you are able to achieve your goaltender half of a second of clear view, and you're also able to make the other guy miserable by not allowing him to have half of a second of clear view, you're going to be successful. That is hockey. And if you can figure that part out in your own way, there's no roadmap for every team doing it the same way. But I'll tell you one thing, guys, from watching the Leafs over the last 10 games, they've had extremely strong shot quality. They're getting 7+ high danger while taking 12 or fewer low danger. The low danger ones, again, are where the goalie has more than half of a second of clear view. They're not giving those feelers to goalies right now, and I like the way they're playing.
That's interesting. I just wanted one last thing on the quiet eye thing. So is that more about the goaltender, like about teaching them to do something differently, or is it more about the defenders and teaching them to do something differently?
Well, it's a great question. And you know what, Borny? This wasn't something that was talked about in the locker room or, that type of thing from Benoit Allaire to Henrik and I. But you know what he always preached? Set your feet. Why? Because when you set your feet, you set your eyes. And when you're moving laterally, we would always stay away from coming up in our stance and then coming back down, because then there's a delay of getting back to eyes level. And all of your movement is really on a path where, you're tracking your head over your leading knee. And you see their best goalies. Think of Carey Price, how smooth he was from side to side. Well, he was able to capture that all-important half of a second just a split second sooner because he was setting his feet and setting his eyes.
Is that what Ovechkin's done 895 times, set his feet and his eyes?
Well, where he's special is we always talk about the release and also the knuckling of the puck. It's not, you're not seeing, and that's the thing too, the one-timer Kyper, what does a one-timer do? It doesn't allow a goalie to set their feet and set their eyes. That's why the one-timer is so popular and why stick technology and east to west passing has changed the game, because the goalies developed in the early 2000s to such a high level, and the skill is really caught up now, and the stick technology's helped, but the east to west and taking away the goalie's ability to see it clean off the release has changed everything. That's why goal scoring is where it is now.
It's crazy too with Ovi, and this is unrelated to goal. Well, it's not unrelated, but like that puck he catches for the game winner. How many guys for the record breaker? How many guys are catching a wrist shot at the top of the circle with full intent to shoot it as soon as they get it? Like so many guys, like, all right, and catch this, look around, see what's there, maybe I'll shoot it. Like he knew seconds before that hit his stick he was going to take a wrist shot, and it's that commitment. Like he's just all in on the belief the puck can go in, eh?
You know what? Like it goes back to, early 2000s when I saw him a few times in person. You know what it is too, Borny? There is also the mental juggernaut for the goalie of the distraction of knowing who's shooting it. I can't explain it. It just feels for a split second like you lose your focus. You're looking at the puck, but you notice the stick because his is different. And you notice his yellow laces at the time and his look, and it sometimes throws you off because for a split second you're on the puck and then it's Ovi shooting it, and then it's by you, or it just misses the net, and you're like, what am I doing? Why don't I just play him straight up? Why do I keep getting distracted by the fact it's him? And some players in the NHL had that. I felt that with Kovalev. I felt that with Kovalchuk. There was certain guys where, and it was always funny too, because their sticks were different and their tape jobs were different, and it was distracting, and it was usually the star players.
When it's clean on a rink wide pass, are you left? Is a goalie left just to be as big as he can and just hope and pray or guess, or can you ultimately get there still and cover off every part of the net?
Yeah, Kyper, it's interesting because on the pre-scouts that players are in specific spots. I feel like goalies right now in this era, they've done a good job of not allowing positioning to be the reason why they're scored on, because 10 years ago, most of us were over challenging and you couldn't even get across. So 10 out of 10 are going to go in because you just couldn't get there. And even a goalie like Dustin Wolf, as small as he is, comparatively speaking, he plays incredibly deep, and so you can hit those spots just a little sooner. You can get your stops because, again, I think it's more important to get into the middle of the net and get squareness on the puck versus chasing depth and try to be out of control while you're chasing out, because you can hit the middle of your net sooner by taking a shorter path through the crease. That's a big piece of this. And, it's fascinating. I was looking at handedness today, and it was kind of wild looking at all the different handedness of the players in the league and how effective it can be when you're looking at goal scoring. And it started with looking at Demko last week. He gave up a goal where it was 5-hole, and it was from far enough out where you expect him to make a save. It was a Kyle Connor shot, and it was top of the circles. It was pretty clear. It was clear sighted. He could see it all the way through. And you remember me talking about how the puck should be halfway between the shooter and the goaltender where you see a successful save. Well, in this case, it was past that halfway point, and it beat him 5-hole. And Kyper, I was thinking about you because when we were talking about places on the net to shoot right now, modern day, you were surprised that it wasn't 5-hole. And I quickly said, no, it's high glove because, but that was really looking at all things: lateral movement shots, screen shots, deflections, even rebounds. But when you isolate it, and I want to give you credit here because you were right, when you isolate it to shots that are clear sighted, again, half of a second of clear view on the puck from the slot with time and space, or odd man rushes. So imagine those one-on-one situations in the game where it's really just, you see it, it's shooter and goalie. The numbers really surprised me. The best place to shoot right now in the NHL is 5-hole on those where a goalie's got clear view and you're in a shoot to score area. So it is 15% this season. Shooting 5-hole is better than over the glove. Over the glove shooting percentage in those situations is 13%. And over the blocker is only 9.5%. Under the blocker, 11%. Under the glove, 11%. And you can imagine where I'm going with this. It made me think of, what matters to shooters sometimes is having inside ice. And what matters to goalies sometimes is whether it's a lefty or a righty. And interesting. Borny, and Kyper, you as well. You guys both lefties?
Yeah.
I'm a righty.
You're a righty, Borny?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, 384 forwards in the NHL any given night. Lefties, 3,546 shots, 281 goals. Righties, 2,080 shots, 184 goals. So I was looking at 5-hole shots from right-handed shooters, 16%, left-handed shooters, 14%. So you're actually better as a righty. I thought that over the glove was going to be more for a lefty, and it's in fact the same. It's 13% whether you're a lefty or a righty. I thought that under the blocker was going to be a higher shooting percentage for lefties. It's not. Righties have a 13% chance to score under the blocker. Lefties are 10%. Under the glove, I thought it was going to be right-handed shooters, and it is. It's 13%. Better chance to score for a right-handed shooter under the glove than a left-handed shooter at 10%. So I thought this was all fascinating, and then it went one step further. I don't know why, I get into one of these.
You're in the rabbit hole. That's why.
No, I'm in it. And I'm thinking, what else do I need to know about this? Well, how interesting is it to think that, Or imagine that some goalies have more difficulty with lefties versus righties,
Yeah.
right? On a shot. Like
Sure.
it's 8 feet away. That's what I always tell a goalie when they're lined up and they don't know if it's a lefty or righty because they haven't scanned first. You can't just track the pass. You want to get ahead of it so you get that half of a second. But a lefty on the ice all the way around to a righty, it's about an 8-foot difference. So Anton Forsberg, just let's guess here and say that the Leafs are playing Ottawa in the first round. Anton Forsberg is the 4th best goalie in the NHL in save percentage, stopping left-handed shooters. Ullmark is 5th best in the NHL in save percentage at stopping right-handed shooters. Bottom 5 guys, kind of interesting here. Left-handed shooters had top 5 success against both Jeremy Swayman and Korpisalo, and they're on the same team. Ilya Samsonov, he was the worst goalie in the NHL against left-handed shooters, and this is all minimum 30 shots faced. And I'm wondering to myself, did Boston last year have a lot of lefties in their lineup? Is that what happened? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's something here, and I think it's always interesting when you nail down certain things and you get into the weeds a little bit. The more curious you are, which is why I take in so much hockey content, because even when I listen to you guys, like there's always something that piques my interest that I want to look into a little bit more. But
when I watch
righties better than lefties. Yeah.
Valley, when I watch Nate McKinnon on a power play, or just kind of like Ovi's at the top of the circle, he's at the bottom of the circle,
Yeah,
and if he gets it cleanly, I think every time he's going high glove against the goalie, and I've seen him so many successful goals on it.
You know what it is, Kyper? This is something, it's kind of wild to me. This hasn't broke through yet, because I was in camp with Luongo in 2012 and he was doing it. And I'll give you a situation here. I'll never forget it. He's in net and Crosby comes over the dot line and he gets tight enough in that McKinnon spot, the one that I know the one you're thinking of. And Crosby goes high glove. And Luongo goes like this, and he gets it with his elbow. Instead of, you know how Stolarz got beat against Florida, where it was high glove, and he brought his glove around in a circular motion? Like, goalies always get caught right here, right? Now, 2 things. If it's a bomb that gets on top of you right away, or if it's from dots down, goalies right now would be much more successful, like tracking into shots and using their chicken wing versus using that swinging motion. Sid came around to the back of the line where I was standing in a tracksuit, and he was like, what the F was that? And Luongo was funny because we were talking about it before, because that summer he told me that Francois Lair, the other Lair, was coming over the dot line all summer long in training in Quebec and just having guys shooting high glove. And Luongo was using his elbow, his shoulder and his elbow. And I said to Sid, I was like, Sid, this is something that's coming, man. Guys are going to start taking away the upper part of the net with their shoulders and their elbows. Hellebuck's very successful at it. And I remember one of our previous shows, Bourne, where we were talking about how Hellebuck's glove, was one of the stronger gloves in the league. But really what I was referring to was that he covers up top here. And I remember you saying, well, what about the Connor McDavid goal for Four Nations, right? Because it was glove side. But in that instance, he kind of got stuck and he didn't go for it because he was deeper in his crease. You can only use the shoulder and the elbow if you're at the right depth. If you're too deep, you do have to be more reactionary. But Connor Hellebuck's very good at protecting the upper part of the net because he does it in various ways. I don't know that too many guys are doing this very well right now, but the next step for the goalie in the cat and mouse game with the shooter is going to be protecting better up top with shoulders and elbows from dots down, or if it's a one-time or a heater that gets on top of you quickly like an OV one, or even the Florida one. I think that was a defenseman that night against Stolarz. But, point is that there's still another step for goalies to take to catch up to what's going on in the NHL, in my opinion.
Okay, I have a semi-real question and a real question. The semi-real question is, my son is 8 and he's taping his new stick the other day, and he's like, why do they use black or white tape? And I was like, it doesn't matter, use whatever. However, growing up, it's all, black tape, gonna hide the puck at all. Anything to that for a goalie? Black tape make any difference?
I believe in that 100% black tape. Yeah,
All right.
because it hides it enough, and well, I don't know, you're kind of doing me a favor if you have white tape because I can really
Right.
see it distinctly off the release.
Absolutely. Now,
the
have you
answer is,
considered that
yeah.
you don't look as cool with black tape?
Is that right? I don't know. I don't know.
I
don't
actually
know
used
about
black
that.
until I didn't. I decided the style was more
Well,
important.
it is, Borny, it is tryout season right now for you guys as well, right?
Yes,
Like
they're
I know,
coming up.
yeah, it is. You know what? I have a message for all the parents because I took a few calls today, and this is always out there. Should my son play up, or should I be looking for another program?
Up by
or,
forward or a level?
by a level.
Level.
Yeah.
By a level. And you know what the answer is? I've really come to understand this over the last few years. If your son or daughter is not dominating where they are, keep them where they are. If they are
Yes.
dominating, move up. That's
Absolutely.
it. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's not even that complicated. I got goalies leaving prep school or going someplace else. It's like you haven't even dominated there yet. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you can get on the
Dominate
third
there.
line of the next level. It's like just
That's
score a
right.
million goals at the level you're at.
Yeah.
Just dominate where you are. You know what?
Hey.
I'm actually heading home this weekend. I'm going to go to Richmond Hill Von Kings, the banquet. I'm getting inducted into the Hall of Fame of youth hockey.
Yeah,
Nice.
congratulations. That's so cool.
Huge honor. No, and I'm really looking forward to it because there's some nostalgia there. And you know what, guys? I remember making AAA for the very first time. It was on my third time because in those days, we had to take all of our small towns, King City, Nobleton, Bolton, Calden East, and we all came together and we created the Richmond Hill Von Kings. There might have been 40 goalies at tryouts the first year. I don't do anything to stand out. To be fair, I wasn't dominating at the single A level anyways for the Bolton Bruins. So what did I need to start for the Richmond Hill Von Kings? And it wasn't until I was the starting goalie for the Bolton Bruins that I went to the Von King tryout and I made it, and it was time. I didn't deserve to be on it the first year or the second year, but the third year, I did. And I'll remember this too. And I like to kind of tell this story because it's worthwhile for kids too. I'm going into 8th grade, and my father has a really severe car accident. He has a 63 Stingray convertible Corvette, and it flips over. And this is Labor Day weekend going into my 8th grade year at school. And he was in a coma for 3 weeks. And I made promises like you cannot believe, prayer. And, I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to do all these things. And I just wanted my dad to come through. And it's 3 weeks that he was in a coma, and I'm going to school. And the guys at school, my buddies, they don't know what's going on with me. I wasn't comfortable talking about it. I was embarrassed for whatever reason. Fast forward to the end of the season. My dad comes to the Richmond Hill Von Kings tryouts in a wheelchair because he's still rehabilitating and learning how to walk again. And it was one thing that he said to me. He said, because at this time, the doctors were saying, you're not going to walk again, you're not going to work again. And he was an electrician, owned an electrical company. And he told me this before the tryouts, that if you make this team this year, I'm going to walk again and I'm going to work again. And I went out there, guys, like my hair was on fire. I'd never worked so hard in my life. I ended up making the team because I made them keep me.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it was from my dad, but I remember coming away from that experience and saying to myself, you know what? I'm never going to go back and be the other guy. It's more fun being the hard worker.
Yeah.
And for the kids right now that are listening to this, because I do tell this story to my goalies, there's a point of ignition in everybody's life where you mature up or you realize something powerful. And for me personally, I think the best thing that I ever did was have that adversity at that age, because I realized I always wanted to be the hardest working guy after that. And that was the path to most of us ever getting a chance to play pro.
Yeah, that's awesome. I
great.
have
Good
your
story.
story, but mine didn't involve hockey. It was Don Valley Junior High basketball, and I got kind of pushed into a tryout that I said, my game's hockey. I love hockey. I'm not doing basketball. And all my buds said, no, come and try out for the basketball team. And I'm like, no, I'm not even that good. And I go through 3 days of tryouts. The list is up. My name's on it. And I'm like, I'm dumbfounded. And I go up to the head coach, Mr. McCarthy, and I'm like, okay, I don't get it. Why am I on this team? He goes, you were the hardest working guy. They couldn't get the ball off you underneath the rim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was my wow moment. So That was my okay. So
You took that to hockey?
Exactly. If I
Yeah.
can do that for a sport I'm not even sure I really like, what could I do in the game that I love if I apply myself like I just did in basketball?
Right.
And that was my moment of hard work. Really can get you somewhere.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember Jeff O'Neill recognizing it, and he was a couple of years older than me. My coach was Paul Bukaboom in Richmond Hill, Jeff Bukaboom's cousin.
Yeah.
And they used to bring me out, and Jeff was really cool where he'd shoot on me, spend extra time. The puck would go to the other end. He'd come down and do breakaways on me. But he was always really cool that way with me because I think we had a mutual respect for just, I want to shoot on a goalie that digs in, right? And funny that I even say that because Jeff O'Neill was actually with me at my OHL draft. And by the time I played my first game, I remember playing against Carolina. He skated by and he goes, "Hey, Valley, what took you so long to get here?"
Did you say we're not as gifted as you, dog?
Yeah,
dog.
exactly. But it's funny how that started with the Richmond Hill Von Kings, as funny as that goes,
That's funny. I hate to turn the page on that because it's a great theme. We could talk about it for a long time. But before we got talking about that, you were talking about this is coming for goaltending, taking away the top part of the net, chicken wing, this sort of stuff. The way the goaltending evolved for a while was we are going to be where basically challenge the shooters and say, we're going to take away 93% of the net. And if you can hit the 7, congratulations. And guess what? We can hit the 7 now. And so now goaltenders are sort of having to evolve. And I wonder if that won't give rise or give a return to athletic goaltending, to where it has to be more reactionary. You can't just play the percentages because we can hit the percentage now.
Yeah, I agree with that all the way. It's already happening. I know that I bought into this a few years ago. I think I told you guys this story once where when I retired, Borny, I didn't know what I didn't know. I really didn't. I was asking a lot of questions. For instance, I didn't know that the quickest way for me to get my low blocker down to make a save would be if I drive both my knees down hard to the ice and pitch forward. I actually wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if my knee should stay off a little bit because I'd get more, range. And I really had these questions and I was asking, and I didn't like a lot of the answers I received until I received a call from a biomechanics coach. And it was actually through Jim Hiller because I went to a summer camp with him and was talking to him a bunch of stuff that I was getting into. And he invited me to go out and job shadow him out at Tri-Cities because that's where he was coaching the WHL. And long story short, I get a call from this guy. I'm driving over the Tappan Zee Bridge. I know where I am at this point, and I'll never forget this moment. But he said to me, "What are troubling you? What thoughts and stuff?" I said, "Look, I don't know about the upper glove, the low blocker." He said, "Okay, well, let's start with the high glove. If the shot's coming from dots down, how would you save it?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to bring my arm up like this, the way I was saying about earlier, the Stolarz example." And he said, "Well, let's talk about using your shoulder and elbow. But you have to make sure that your posture is proper." And I talk a lot about posture here. And this is a really good example because he said, and imagine that I'm driving in my truck at this moment. He said, "You're sitting in your seat with your back up against your seat and you're looking at the road ahead of you." He said, "Take your arm and try and touch the roof of your car with your elbow." And well, you see, like I get stuck here because I'm sitting back. And I said, "Well, I can't." He said, "Exactly. But now pitch your chest forward, look down the hood of your car as if you could see the road coming underneath your vehicle, and now do it. And when you do that, you can get all this range, right?" And the key is that on the shots that are coming at your ear from face-off dots down for most goalies because of size, etc., you have to keep your head silent off the release on just those 2 shots, the ones that are coming at your ear, whether it's left or right, and you can get that range. If the shot is further out, then really what you're doing with your glove is you're just going north. And you see a lot of goalies going here with their fingers up. Now that works because you have more reactionary time from that distance. But I think in the future, more goalies are going to start bringing this in. And again, Luongo was the best I saw do it. And then there really hasn't been anybody that's been consistently great since. which is why we still see a lot of goals in the upper part of the net, because guys are caught between shoulder and elbow and trying to get a catch. But in most cases, that catch is rounded rather than fingers up and just going into attacking space.
So I think we're running out of time. I wanted to ask you, with Marc-Andre Fleury retiring this season at 573 wins, is the true unbreakable record, which we thought many years ago was Wayne Gretzky's goal scoring, is now belonged to Marty Brodeur at 691. Like, no one's touching that ever.
You know what? This is a good one, Kyper, because here's a few things. Brodeur played 11 NHL years without shootouts, right? So you have to imagine that he missed a lot of wins there without shootouts, and now we've got 3-on-3 overtime.
Yeah.
So there's going to be the next wave of guys that come in that have that, so they're going to get a lot of extra wins there. Brodeur also played through a full season stoppage as well as 2 shortened stoppages. Maybe we don't. So he lost basically 2 years right there. He was incredibly durable. That was always his thing. And another thing I looked at was we've played 19 years since the 04-05 lockout, and only 2 goalies have played over 60 games and won the Stanley Cup in that time. And it's Jonathan Quick in 12, and it's Marc-Andre Fleury in 2009. And so if we could say that the last 12 winners played fewer than 60 games, and in 6 cases we saw the Stanley Cup winners over the last 19 years use 2 goalie tandems, I think that the reasoning, at least analytically, and just for the coaching staff, they don't want to play their guys 60-plus games. So you're going to see fewer goalies have the opportunity to get a lot of wins because they're not going to overplay them. As we saw, check out how many games Brodeur played during his career. He had how many seasons of 70-plus games, 60-plus games. I don't think we're going to see that again. So even Marc-Andre Fleury right now, he's 118 wins away from beating it. He's a former first overall pick, and he played games at 18 years old in the NHL, and he's 40 right now. So who else is going to play for that length of time and be durable as he has? And he's played for good teams. But in the future, I don't think guys like Marc-Andre Fleury are going to see the games that Brodeur saw.
Marc-Andre Fleury would have to play for 4 more years at 30 wins.
And you know what else too? On top of all that, I think that most guys at certain points in their career are always tempted to go to Europe as well. That really wasn't a thing in Brodeur's era. But, I mean, I'm going to say no, because I think that everybody, games played wise, is always going to be on a restriction that he wasn't back in the day.
Awesome stuff, man. Valley, great storytelling. Really appreciate it, as always, on our Tuesdays. Another fantastic job. Thanks for doing this.
All right, boys. Be good. Take care.
Thanks, Valley. Appreciate it.
Steve Valiquette, former NHLer, doing a great job with his clear sight analytics.
Yes, sir. All right, before we get to Books, we should do game, what's it called?
Game time?
Game time?
Game time. I love game time. I just had a small brain moment.
All right, here we go, gentlemen. It's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Play responsibly. 10 games in the NHL tonight. I want to hone in on one in particular involving the Ottawa Senators on the road in Columbus. Ottawa can clinch a playoff spot tonight for the first time since 2017. Oh. All they need to do is beat the Columbus Blue Jackets.
For the 3rd time in like 3 weeks.
To that I say, give me the Ottawa Senators on the road. They're minus 120 on the money line. Frankly, I'm not surprised I'm surprised they're not even bigger favorites. Minus 120 on the money line. If you wanted to lay even extra juice, plus 200 on the spread, minus 1.5. Ottawa Senators booking their ticket to the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Columbus has been a wonderful story this season, but well-placed money there. I think.
All right. That's Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Play responsibly.
Okay, let's get to a break so we can get back to our in-studio guest. We're going to get Jason Bukala, who does a terrific job with the draft, junior hockey. And the topic of discussion will be the Montreal Canadiens, in a surprise move, getting their top prospect in the lineup and could be eligible to play in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll tell you who when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. As a reminder, this hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne. Let's welcome in Jason Bukala. Books. Thanks for joining us. I know you guys are getting set for your 6:30 show on Hockey Central.
Mm-hmm.
A big topic of discussion has to be Ivan Demidov.
Get used to saying that one.
We weren't expecting him to leave the KHL and join the Montreal Canadiens this season. Is that correct, Jason?
That is absolutely 100% correct.
So what happened?
Well, story time, just a little bit. You guys
Okay,
all right
yeah,
with that?
that's why you're
We're
here.
ready, buddy.
So World Juniors, I had dinner with Nick Bobrov, who's the scouting director, one of the co-scouting director with the Habs.
Okay.
Nick goes way back to, he's got Russian descent. His dad's a member of the management team at SKA, and Nick was formerly part of SKA as well.
Okay.
So they did a lot of homework clearly before they even made that selection last year at number 5. They knew what they were getting into. But I got the impression after that, I kind of went down a few rabbit holes about it, trying to, poke the bear a bit. And that's delicate, as you all know with the Russian kids. You don't want to push I want to stay in my lane, basically, what I'm trying to tell you. Anyways, wow, this snuck up on me because as of a couple weeks ago when SKA was making playoffs, this kid, for a little perspective for everybody, 19 years old. He's the first 19-year-old in the history of the KHL to lead a team in scoring.
Wow.
And it's SKA, which is like the Montreal Canadiens in that
Right.
league. It's a big money team. So I'll give you that first. Couple names behind him, Kaprizov, Grigorenko, Kuznetsov, these types of players, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this snuck up on me that they went from maybe not playing him in playoffs because the Russian way is that we're going to punish our players, and they knew he was leaving at the end of the year, so they were – we're not going to play in playoffs. Of course they did, and then he led the team in scoring in playoffs. They got eliminated in 6 games to Dynamo. But here we go. This is a great story.
In terms of a handful of games to go, and how do you slot him in? Typically, you would be very guarded under any circumstance from any rookie from 19 to 23, maybe coming out of the NCAA. Like, how did the Montreal Canadiens approach this? Is this guy going to walk in and play 18, 20 minutes?
I would say that if they beat the Detroit Red Wings tonight, that the strategy changes a little bit. Right out of the box, guys, he's going to play free offensively. Okay, he's not going to be buckled up. He sees the full width. He's a left shot, but he plays the right wing. So on zone exits, when you're playing your off wing, everything's in front of you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're not, and so everything's in front of him, and he's either darting or he's making plays right away. He's super comfortable. He's not going to have any problem with that whatsoever. Defensively, there's going to be some times where, when a switch happens, if you're man on man and a switch happens down low off of coverage, where he's going to have to rotate up top, he might get caught flat-footed a little bit. So my answer to the question is, if they beat Detroit tonight, feel more comfortable about it, get him over here, get him acclimated, get him on the time zone. And go from there. But he's going to play. He's going to be really good.
We've both come in many nights or days and we've looked at our phones and go, did you see this?
Yeah.
He is a human highlight reel.
He's more than any other prospect I can remember being like, dude, did you see that one or this one? It's
sick.
Unique.
It's very unique. I don't want to hyperbole it, but I have to tell you guys how it feels in the pit of my stomach. And as you know, I've tracked this kid for a couple of years, right? So even today, when I had all this news coming through, I texted some people in the Habs organization just because I wanted to be sure. Because I've seen this before, right? So I just wanted to be sure this kid's on a plane or whatever. And I got the thumbs up. That was great. So then I reached out to a couple of my colleagues in Russia that I've worked with in the past. I said, honestly, am I hyperboling this? How good is this kid? Give me a comparison. And the one guy came back today and says, better than Kaprizov at the same age, already 50% better than Michkov last year.
Yeah. All right. So they like the kid a lot.
So, and we've all met Russians, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty buckled up.
Understated,
yeah.
So what I'm torn about with this is 2 things. One, look at Lane Hudson and how exceptional he's been this year. You're going to win the Calder Trophy. But if you asked Montreal Canadiens fans about him 2 months into the season, they'd be like, he's got to find the D zone still. He's got, and he has. And that's come around now. He's defending well, but it takes some time. So heading into playoffs, is there some risk of saying, yeah, this guy's free flowing and he sees the ice, but it's even the best in the world takes some time to get that defensive aspect. So how comfortable should the Canadiens be with him in playoffs? And to that, should they even care, since they don't expect this to be a cup year? This is all kind of gravy.
Yeah, I think you have to be strategic. I will say this, that I think he's got enough mettle that when he makes a mistake, so Roman Rottenberg, who's a coach there for him at SCA, there was nights this kid only played 6 minutes. And then there was other nights that there was a playoff game, he played 28 minutes. So what I'm trying to tell you is that, like, his makeup mentally, there's no high. I'm not too high, not too low. I'm going to stay in the game no matter what the situation presents. So, does he make your power play better? Absolutely. Do you get a positive line matchup on home ice? Maybe it's on a defensive zone draw. It's a switch off of one draw, stuff like that. Run a set play out of it. All these things. But defensively, yeah, he's going to be challenged.
Yeah.
He absolutely will. But now you talk about Lane Hudson. It's harder when I worked for Dale Talon and we were drafting defensemen, he always used to say to us that, honestly, a defenseman, until he's played 250 games in the NHL, 250 games in the NHL, you don't know that he's at his peak performance. You don't know exactly what you're getting until he gets that deep. That's Dale's, anymore. These kids are arriving sooner, getting paid sooner, so they better get it figured out a lot sooner than that. But there's a little bit more freedom on the wing defensively.
Yeah. You've been part of an NHL scouting staff. You've been part of a management team. Where would the pitfalls be outside of this guy just maybe not being able to make the adjustments just yet this soon? Would it be messing with the chemistry at this point with the Montreal Canadiens? Like, at the end of the day, I've been on enough teams and rosters where when we see a new guy coming in, either a trade or in this instance, it's like, whose spot is he taking? Yeah. Whose minutes is he taking? Who's coming off the ice for this guy to come on? Yeah. Where do you see him fitting in? Is he? You got Suzuki, Slafkovsky, and Caulfield. You ain't touching that. Newhook is with Patrick Laine. Like, where do you see the fit coming in?
Yeah, he has to play amongst those names that you just mentioned right there. Maybe Dvorak gives him a little protection there defensively. Dvorak's been playing better lately in his last 5 games. I think he's got 2 tucks and he's tracking and he's winning a lot of his draws. So there's like those little built-in positives that might actually springboard him to a little bit more as well. But I am totally on board with how you just positioned that, because when you are you got guys blocking shots with their face, they're pushing everything they got, they're bleeding themselves dry every night to get you into playoffs, and now you introduce somebody new. You better be comfortable with your leadership group in the room, that they can insulate whatever that is. And I think that starts with the coach. I think he's created a great culture there. Actually, upper management's done a hell of a job. Let's be honest. Like, this is pretty fantastic what they've done in relatively short order. But yeah, no, it's not perfect. Mm-hmm. It's not perfect, but it's part of the process.
There you go. Turn the page on this one just before we run out of time. Zane Parekh is also going to be in the NHL now. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there and this kid.
So Zane Parekh became only the second defenseman in OHL history, maybe CHL. I'd have to double check on that. In OHL history to have more than 30 goals in back-to-back years. The other guy was this young guy from Perry Sound named Bobby Orr. Pretty good, I heard. So Zane Parekh I call him an offenseman. I know
he had 107 points.
Yeah, I know. He's like, I call him an offenseman, which isn't a word, so nobody look it up. But he's like a fourth forward. He's like he's a rover almost a little bit. And now, having said that, his defensive commitment went to a new level for me. And all I need for him to be, guys, is average defensively. Mm-hmm. I know that he's not going to be superior in that, but all the rest of it is so elite. You can't teach that. You can't even. All you can do is nurture that.
Evan Bouchard-ish?
No. Oh my God, way more compete defensively than Bouchard. Way more.
Well, that's a healthy start.
And 6 foot, and he's 6 foot 185 compared to Bush, who's 6'2", 208, whatever he is. More engaged, more he's got this huge personality, so he's in it, and he'll block shots. He didn't really penalty kill very much to Saginaw. He definitely won't do it in the NHL. But when he gets the puck, I'll tell you. Like, remember? Did you play Brian Leach remember when Brian Leach would get a puck and he'd hit it up ice, and it's just like, it's just a beautiful thing to watch. You know, like the Quinn Hughes now, these types of guys. Zane Preck's like that. He's a right shot too, which is highly coveted.
And Calgary hasn't disappeared yet here. They're also in a position here where
big next game.
Yeah, big next game. But
I don't think he gets in a game.
You don't think he gets in a game?
No.
So just bringing him in the environment and experiencing being around the big leagues.
I think he gets in a game.
This is what it's about.
If they lose to Anaheim, and obviously they got Anaheim then Mini. Is that what it is?
Correct,
Anaheim, Mini. And watching Anaheim last night, like that's a tough out.
Yeah.
they're
They're
a funny
down.
team. They're a funny team to watch. So, I mean, oh my God, they the most miserable bench coaching staff I've ever seen in my life. They just look miserable all the time.
Not having a lot of fun.
No. Anyways, I digress. I think obviously that one's a little bit different. And to your point with Lane Hudson, this is a defenseman coming in at this time of year, which I think is a whole different thing. Like, would you bring a goalie in from college and throw him in a playoff race?
Right, no.
There's not going to be that going on.
One of my favorite pieces of recent analysis I heard was Colby Armstrong saying that playing wing, well, I didn't like that he said it's harder than playing center, but as D get better, I think in the D zone, it's becoming harder for a winger to defend, right? Because some of these guys, Parekh and Hudson and Hughes and Makar, and all of a sudden playing wing, and you're doing switches and you're chasing around these guys, I think it's going to get a lot harder.
It's the lateral movement that's gone to another level.
They used to stand there.
I don't know left or right.
I remember my junior coach saying, you can stand there and just touch your D-man with your stick and kind of know you got him.
Yeah.
They didn't go anywhere.
They didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that you say that, because that, to me, when I hear coaches say, I want a lefty, I want a righty, with all the switching and everything that goes on, the only thing I can think of, I guess on zone exits, but the other thing is like that, you know, when you're turning to defend against the rest. When we had Mackenzie Weegar, real quick, he came up as a right D. Okay. Then we had to transition to the left side.
Right.
You guys know from body mechanics, you know how you train yourself? It's like turn, pivot, chase it over my right shoulder from a right shot. Your body gets used to that all the time. He had to train himself to do it on the other side, but he's athletic enough to do it.
Yeah.
These guys on the blue line now, they're so athletic.
You watch a lot of teams, like their wingers, they'll give you the puck back to the point. They just won't.
Just keep him in front of me.
They're within 10 feet. There's 5 guys within 10 feet of each other.
Yeah.
Below the hash marks. And if you want to go up D to D, that's okay. I'm just not getting beat up there.
Right. We'll give you that one because I can at least get in the lane
no
at
other
that point.
choice.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
If you stay tight to a guy, I'll jump by you and see you later.
Oh yeah, and then when they work the high-low cycle and you're too tight like that, you're just going to get picked out of the way. So when you come to the middle like that, you'll give them that perimeter.
Oh yeah.
You know, you'll no problem, stay out there all day long.
Yeah. Well, this is exciting.
Yeah, I think Montreal Canadian fans have a lot to look
I'm pumped
forward to.
for the Habs. You guys know this kid better not fall flat on his face because I'm going to look like
You have a lot of stock.
I got a lot of stock invested
Demidov,
in this.
You
Yes.
have not been too wrong.
No.
Along
So here we
a
go.
lot of
We got
times here.
Demidov highlights now. This is great.
Yeah, they're
What a pass.
Yeah.
We're just going to sit here and do
Yeah, we're
radio
just
in
gonna watch
silence,
radio.
watch this guy
You know,
dance.
I have to
oh,
say-
this one. Yoink.
I know this one
Yoink.
through everybody.
Look, and he's not striding. He's just actually cutting his edges.
I don't
He's super
understand.
strong, guys. Like he's his core and his sturdiness along the wall. He extended plays for a lot of those veteran guys on Scott. So he's going to be a dog on a bone as well, which is nice because you're not always going to score. You got to have to do those little things. I haven't been this excited about a European player since we drafted Alexander Barkov, and I don't say that lightly.
How did Barkov end up doing?
It's gone okay.
It's going okay.
Barkey's a centerman, but in terms of pure skill and upside, I think Kaprizov and all that. Wow, Montreal, they're going in a really positive direction.
Awesome.
Okay, you guys have a great show. For those of you, do not change that channel across Sportsnet. These guys are up in about a half an hour.
See you then.
Our thanks to Jeff Chychrun in the first hour, former NHL defenseman, covering the Florida Panthers, and then Steve Valiquette. Enjoy your games tonight, and we're back to do it all over again on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Have a great night, everybody.